Week at the time, and Eve's of the 80s was in stellar form. These are some examples of his legendary and exquisite color sense. His runway was very straightforward, the YSL logo on a plain backdrop. He used no props, no scenery, no gimmicks. It was all about the clothes. And that's Iman again on the right. She is quite the girl, and it was thrilling to see her walk. She had a really commanding presence and would electrify the room every time she stepped out on the runway. More beautiful color. Saint Laurent's tailoring was impeccable. Even when using heavy fabrics, the line was elegant. One of the things that struck me when doing this research was how many things looked really great for right now, and it's 25 years ago. It's pretty amazing. Eve's glammed up sportswear made dressy separates easy to wear. And that's Pat Cleveland in the red. She was really a big girl at the time, a big model, and one of the first models to really display her own personality on the runway. And apart from the gorgeous feathers and bows, I wanted to show you this because of that little black spot there, which my trusty photo editor nearly photoshopped out of the picture. If you've ever had the pleasure of being backstage at a show, or if you've watched Project Runway and seen when they do a show, you know that there are monitors back there, so the designers can watch their whole show, see what's happening in the front of house. That is a little peephole. In high-tech 80s, that's how they saw the show. For years, YSL's show held the honored spot of clothes for Paris Fashion Week. And these are two more of his girls at the time, Munia and Donna, who was from Brazil. Claude Montana. His name has faded from the fashion scene, but his collection was a highlight of Paris Fashion Week for at least a decade. He tapped into all the trends of the time, but managed to reinterpret them in his own unique language. Norma Kamali's use of fleece for ready-to-wear had made its impact, but he carried the idea one step further by referencing it for an evening gown. On the right, motorcycle jackets were part of his fashion canon. This was 1983, and the Mao jacket was the inspiration. Uniforms and utilitarian looks were a staple of the period, but Montana was one of the first to put it on the runway. Big shoulders were a big deal. Here in a range of beautiful khaki-colored leather, this lineup of girls across the runway was one of the trademarks of his staging. Montana also had a thing for high hair with a kind of freeze-stop action, so the hair would seem suspended in motion. The black and white leather is a nod to the pumps. His models always moved very slowly and deliberately, and that was great for photography. You had plenty of time to capture a gorgeous pose. And it was standard at the time to end a show with a bride. Thierry Mugler. Lady Gaga made the perfect choice. These clothes are made for her. He always put on a fantastic show with sets, drama, often extreme accessories or details, and always wonderful girls. He loved super tall models. His shows were exuberant, charged with a sexual energy. His soundtrack often included the music of James Brown. This was the first show I ever attended in '83, and the theme was 60s psychedelia. Here are some pop princesses in iridescent fake fur coats with cartoon bubble handbags. I was in my early learning phase with photography, and I really didn't mean to cut off her head on the left. And this whole collection was based on Soviet iconography, an aesthetic which dovetails neatly with his vision of human perfection, the ideal of the Superman and the Superwoman. Mugler was an excellent photographer, and his work shows his fascination with the heroic concept. Rizzoli published a book of his in '88. Many of the images feature clothes from this fall '86 collection. His shoulders were probably the biggest in Paris. And you can't think of Russia without including snow bunnies. At the other side of the globe for inspiration, Mugler did go off-site for this show at the African Museum, and that's Iman again, in skin-tight leather on the right, and Carol Miles on the left. She really did shave her head for the show. His accessories were often wild, but the cuts of the clothes were fabulous and super curvy. Mugler was fascinated with the human form, and he often included nudity in his show. Chanel was lucky to get Carl, and Carl was lucky to get Chanel. It's easy to think that Chanel always existed. There was Coco and then there was Carl, right? Well, not exactly. In October of '83, there was a rumor going around the tents that there was going to be a show for Chanel. Chanel was just a perfume brand then. There had been no clothes produced since Coco died in 1971. This revival would mark the first of many old brands to reposition themselves for a new generation. Lagerfeld had been on the design scene since the '60s, working for the Roman house of Fendi doing their furs, and also working for the house of Chloe. He's still doing the furs for Fendi. I don't know how he does all these collections. I don't know how I secured an invitation, but I was very happy to witness this first collection, which was brilliant. It started out with sports outfits, a stroke of genius. And he went through a whole gamut of sports gear, including croquet and hunting a la Maharini style. More genius, denim 4 ways. While it's true that Chanel left a gold mine of tropes to expand upon, Carl's great talent is his finely tuned radar system that seems perpetually wired into the now. He's in a constant state of reinventing. Even his ladylike looks, he manages to breathe in the right touch of freshness, something he's continued to do season after season, a rare gift. Early on, he started creating sets for his shows. This one, the facade of the shop on Rue Cambon with perfume bottles in the window. Now, Carl's sets are the biggest in Paris, and he shows at the biggest possible venue, which is the Grand Palais. He even tries a joke now and again with his tongue-in-cheek mother and daughter outfit in bubblegum.